Yeah, we can see you.
Thank you everyone for attending and everyone on Zoom for attending. It's a great way to be able to get people into the in-service as well. And thank you everyone for persevering through this really difficult, crazy, we thought was a year, then was a year and a half, and now it's like a year and 9 months. I appreciate everybody staying safe, keeping yourselves safe, and keeping our clients safe as well. It's been a very trying time for the agency and all programs as well, and just home care in general. I mean, the Office of Long-Term Living in Pennsylvania was saying we were having a crisis, you know, because of the shortage of workers everywhere, the shortage of hospital workers, the shortage of everything. And now they're calling it an emergency. But, you know, yet is there something to be done about it, but we are trying to advocate and trying to get them to make sure that people want to work, do this field, and be reimbursed for it as well. So I'm hoping things will change, hopefully by the spring, or at least in the next year, that something would give, because I know it's been really stressful for all of us. So I appreciate you all for hanging in there. We really do appreciate what you do, and you're just some of the best, you know, best people in the world for what you do, and we really appreciate it. So the in-service tonight is a mandatory in-service. It's required by the Department of Health, who does our licensing, and also by all of our contractors, meaning the 3 insurance companies that now took over the waiver program, UPMC, Keystone First, and also PA Health and Wellness, and by our county's contractors, Bucks and Montgomery County. So it's something we have to do internally. It's not something that you really have to be worried about, but it'll help you understand, it'll give you a whole understanding of the process of what we're doing. And that's our quality assurance, our quality management policy, and our complaint procedure. Okay? Quality assurance. Does anybody have an idea of why we do this?
So we can up to date on what we're supposed to do?
Yeah, well, the quality assurance, our purpose is what we do, and I'm head of the quality assurance, and the nurses and the schedulers and Rich are also involved in the quality assurance meeting. We have to have this, and we have to do it at least every 3 months. But the purpose for us is to systematically evaluate, maintain, and then continually improve the quality of services provided to clients and their families. So we have to take a deep look at ourselves and say, what are we doing? It's very objective, it's not personal, and see how we can improve what we're hearing. And we're indicated, improve the quality of care if that's necessary, and respond to the changes in the community, which have been a lot, and the changes is within our own agency, which has been a lot, in compliance with the local, state, and federal laws. So it's something that we have to do, and as we've been doing it now for about 13, 14 years, it has given us a real good look into, you know, really analyzing what we do. And it's important. And now it's turning into a marketing tool, because everybody is saying, the people that are trying to sell us marketing, because everyone's so desperate, everyone's trying to fall and sell everything to us. And of course I'm not buying, so we know what we're doing. But we use that feedback that we get for people, and we get some very good feedback from our clients about you and about our services and about our agency. We can use that on our internet site. We can use that to promote us. And that's a real big thing right now, is to catch those normal people saying things about Charmaine or our agency or what their ACE experience was, and we can use that as to promote ourselves, as, you know, kind of like free advertising. And also to recruit people, which has been painfully difficult, to show that, you know, people have worked here and they survived here and they're doing well here. So there's a lot involved in this, so I'll break it down as best I can.
They survive.
So what we do also in the quality assurance is to assess the safety of clients, patients, and employees, which I've been working with a number of you very closely on, the last case that we were having this issue with, and to address and resolve client complaints and identify problems so we can measure for quality improvement outcomes, and I'll explain that in a bit. So one of the things we do, and I'm not sure if you're all aware of this, is the first thing we do is we do a summary and analysis of survey findings, and I'll explain that in a minute too. client complaints, employee incidences, your observations, our accomplishments, challenges, goals, and we take a whole look at that quarterly in our quality assurance meeting. I'll start out with one of the first things our quality assurance measures, and that's the client surveys. So we've been sending surveys to discharged clients, and now we're doing it because some discharged clients are impossible to get because we don't know their address or the family doesn't respond. So we're sending them to active employees as well. So even people you're going to see are getting this. So, what is that noise?
That's somebody that's not muted. I'm gonna tell them to mute themselves.
Can you please mute your cameras, please?
I think that's Amanado.
So, the quality, the in-home service program surveys, we send these out to people once they're discharged so the families can see how, if we fulfill their needs, and to active people now, and they're really responding. The actives are something we're starting more often. And so what we're doing is, it's important to us and will help us evaluate our programs. You know, so that is really the purpose of it. So a consumer survey kind of looks like there's 2 pages like this. It's pretty simple, but I'll give you an example of what we ask. Can someone please mute your phone, please? On the Zoom, your microphone's not muted. Thank you.
They don't turn them on.
Who is it?
I can mute them. I think it's
Okay,
Connie.
we want them to hear us. So the first question we ask is, what prompted you to use VNA services? And we get answers like, I just pulled one out of random. My mother died suddenly, my dad had Alzheimer's and he really needed help. So there's a lot of reasons people use our program. The second question we ask is, were the VNA services office staff helpful and courteous? And you know, all people aren't real nice, but we're getting a resounding yes. In this case, Bonnie was always friendly, helpful, and preferred. We asked 2, did the nursing supervisor explain the services available and work with you to establish the plan of care? We always get yeses on that, and we get a lot of compliments with Claudia and Kim saying they were wonderful and things of that nature, because they're the first person they meet represents our agency. And then we say, were your questions answered adequately? Because they do ask a lot of questions to the nurses, because they have to give them an awful lot of paperwork when they go there explaining the complaint procedure and their rights as clients and their responsibilities. So they have a lot of material to cover. The next question is, and this is always the tough one because there's a lot of things and always find something wrong, is were you satisfied with the home care aid service? And there's a question for reliable, yes, no, punctual, knowledgeable, and courteous. And we're getting a resounding yes on all this. And I was worried because some people, we have our problem people who aren't very punctual. But, and that's tough for our compliances and our regulations as well. But I'm really happy to see, like this particular one, I'm not telling you who it is because I need it alone. All the home care aides were professional, kind, and caring. And my dad loved them. So, I mean, these are things that we can really promote our agent, and I want to share with you because it shows you how we get feedback on what you do, which is really great. Next question is, would you use VNA again, the in-home service program? And they usually say yes. I mean, I haven't seen one no, actually. Would you recommend VNA to somebody else? So these are things that are important for us to know, and we usually get yeses on those too. And was there anything you didn't like about VNA? And was there something you particularly liked about VNA? And really the best question is what we're measuring is, were services when they ended, or even while they're continuing, were your needs and your family's needs met? So that's our big measurement tool. So that's how we devise our quality management plan, which we have to have. So the quality management plan is, VNA is committed to an organized, wide approach for quality management. Includes data collection, analysis, performance measurements, and continuous improvement. All these big words. Try to figure out what the heck they mean and have deciphered that. It's really pretty, just mathematically break it down. So we also measure client satisfaction with the nurses. Every 3 months or less, they go to the homes and they do ask the clients, please rate our services on a scale to 1 to 5. So that measurement is really coming in at like 4 or 5, which we like to see. Of course, you may find someone who is upset with the 8 we sent one day, and they might give us a little lower score, but they usually pan out. So there's a lot of measurement going on, so there's a lot of opportunity for them to speak. So we really do stay on top of, our services. And we also get a lot of unsolicited emails and letters people just sent to us. Sharon, you're like one of the big ones there. Just saying how much they appreciated someone or the services that we do. And that's very welcome as well, because it's unsolicited. We aren't asking for it, but they're taking it upon themselves to let us know like how wonderful we were, or they had other agencies and could not believe the difference. So that's really good too. So that brings us to the quality management plan. It has to have a measurable goal. So the measurable goal is we ensure VNA-Community services satisfies the needs and expectations of our clients by analyzing results of those surveys I just read you and by our own visit report. So that's our measurable goal. We can actually look at those surveys and we can look at the satisfaction that it showed and the RN visits. The data-driven outcome. So I can say, in this particular case, 59% of the surveys we sent came back, of which 100% were extremely favorable. So that we have to have data. So the data is we sent out this many, 60% came back, how many were positive, how many, in this case 100%, usually 99 or 100% is what we've been seeing. We'd like to continue that, even through this difficult time. And it's also determined by the RN visit notes. Does anybody have any feedback on all that? Understand it?
I understand it.
Yeah, so it really shows that how important it is and what you do and how faithful you are to us and how it all comes back and how it helps our compliances and how, like I said, makes us feel good about ourselves. We get a lot of really positive feedback. So now we have to get to the complaints, which is another thing that the quality assurance does. We have to have a participant complaint measurement policy and a procedure on what to do with those complaints. So the purpose of the policy is to respond, record, and resolve a participant's complaint and work continuously to improve the program and services provided. So the objective is we have to list, if we have to make a formal complaint, the name of the participant, the name of the complaint, date of the complaint, and what actions we took to resolve it, who was involved in it, and if they were satisfied in the end. So that's the big thing, is what we do. We get a complaint, we get some of them are real solvable. Switch out the aided personality issue. Oftentimes I have to get involved and deal with people, and they're not real reasonable, but there's a way to talk to people and there's a way to resolve problems. And that's why we ask, like, always be courteous. Never, even if there's a problem, let us know. Don't engage in something that could be like something that's not forgiven. So the consumer complaint procedure form is given to every person that signs up for VNA. The nurses give them a form, and it tells them if they have a complaint, they need to contact their RN. So usually the initial things, though a lot will call me. The RNs discuss it with me, and we decide on how we're going to move forward with it, or I just talk to the people directly. And there's a form every time we have a complaint. Like we had this one very unjustified complaint a couple of years back, and the Department of Health just shows up, and they want to see that you had documentation of that complaint. So record of complaint form, we have the name of the person who's complaining, what we did about it, the date, the time, and if it was resolved. So we had that, fortunately, because we had no idea that that person called the state, because on that participant complaint form that's given to every person, they can just call the hotline. And they're really busy. There's only a couple people doing this over the whole state. So they kind of try to weed out what's, not justified. But it's important for us to make sure we follow all those things. And we've been doing this for a long time. Sometimes it's easy to forget how analytical it is, but we do break it down and do this. And the auditors will start coming back out now because they weren't making visits and we were doing all virtual, and I had to send tons of stuff via email, which is better, I guess, but not really. When they come out, we're always really prepared, and I got the whole staff to help. But Bucks County's just sent me when they're coming out, so they're going to be monitoring that. And it was during some of the toughest times. They picked July through September of this year, and I think that was the worst with the staffing shortage and people just falling out and not wanting to go here, not wanting to go there. So but the important thing is that we have the documentation of all this. And so if we get complaints, what we have to do, and it's part of the quality assurance, is that we analyze the number of complaints that have been resolved to the participant's satisfaction. And then we have to also analyze and measure the number of complaints that were not resolved to the participant's satisfaction. So if the amount of unresolved complaints exceeds the amount of complaints that we did resolve for that month or 2 months or 3 months, we have to make a whole corrective action plan and submit it to the Department of Health. So it's very important that we resolve complaints. So if you think something's up or you're something like, please let us know so we're aware of what it is. And trust me, if anyone here has been involved in one, I always will call and get your side of the story and document that. So if someone complained about you, whether it was just or not, we will always contact you and record and document what your side of the story is. In this one case, someone was asking me, did they see a calling card? We weren't accusing anybody of missing a calling card. Does anyone know what that is anymore? It was a big troublemaker though. But thank God I recorded it because I said that it was a complaint, but I didn't put it into the state because it wasn't a complaint. He was simply asking me, he wasn't accusing anyone, was there a missing calling card? But it turned into a whole big fiasco, and I was glad we had documentation. It's a lot of work. So it's always important, to give us heads up. You will always have your voice heard. We know that the consumer's not always right, but mistakes do happen, and we can resolve them, with kindness and the truth. So this is just what we do in the office to keep the organization working and licensed. So it's different than the hard work you have to do all the time, but it's something that can give you a perspective of the whole picture. And then we also do maintenance of personnel files. So that includes, all the documented RN supervisions. When they say, why do they have to come out and visit me? Because it's required. The nurses have to see you at least every 2 months. And if there's some kind of issue going on, more frequently. So don't be mad when they have to come out and visit, because they have to. It's part of our compliances with the state and counties especially. And the MCOs that do the waiver program. And we also have to do that in compliance for everything. And we do all of the training things, your evaluations, your yearly evaluations. That's why it's important when you're called, we need to do your yearly evaluation. All of these contractors require that you have an annual evaluation. So I don't think the nurse is bugging you, but it's time sensitive and we got to get those in. Else we're out of compliance and we can actually be cited. And also assurance of competency. So your in-service requirements, they're very strict about. So it's hard when people aren't making themselves available for that, because we technically should have you stop working until they're completed at the end of the year. And that's really difficult because then we have to take you off, clients who love you and need you, so it's important. And this group here always comes and does food services, fortunately. So I appreciate that. And also, your background checks, your reference checks, all those kind of things we did for so many years ago. For some of you are still in there. And don't get upset if the schedulers are calling you about the auto insurances in your driver's license, because that's all too. Like Bucks County's coming, and if they see someone didn't have auto insurance, that was valid, we could be cited. So that's why we have to have that in your files, because it's not like we want to bug you about it, you know, but they require it, and I haven't asked them so much as to why, but it's a liability thing, especially if you're driving clients to, but even shopping and errands and things of that nature, even though it falls on us, but they want to see that. So that's kind of the backstory of all those things. So I know it gets annoying when someone's calling you 20 million times about the same auto insurance or something like that, but it's just because we need it. So do your best to like scan it to us, or the driver's licenses are really important because they gauge that too, as if you're a Pennsylvania resident and things, so that's really important. We also do client and employee incident reports. I know over COVID that was difficult, but when there's a client incident, we do need you to come in and fill out the report. We can be flexible. I mean, you can orally give that to the nurse over the phone, and she can record that in your own words if you can't make it in, but try to. And then she has to do a follow-up on that incident. And if it's a critical incident, which we've discussed in other in-services, where, you know, the safety and life could be threatened by that person in that incident, we have to record it in an electronic system that goes to the state, and we have to write all of it up and make sure that it's all documented like that. Because if it comes back it wasn't, we could be found negligent and cited. So that's quality assurance, but really the positive part about quality assurance is it is a way to keep us on our toes, and it's a way to see that things are going this way or things are going that way. So it's important for us to look at that and see where we are. Sometimes things will pop up that we weren't aware of, or maybe that we could do better. You know, we're kind of in a holding pattern right now because everything is, you know, everything's so tight and stressful. But we still have to do that. We'll be having one of those in a couple of weeks. Any questions or comments?
Yes. What are the complaints mostly? What is number one, what is number two, what is number three?
Okay. Well, a lot of them, like I said, are solvable. We don't have to even really record it. Oh, I don't like that aid. We'll say, fine, we can send it to somebody else. Someone could say, we think, you know, we're missing something. 99% of the
They don't
times,
look.
they find it.
'Cause they
I
don't.
always say, when? When is the last time you saw it? They're not sure. Did you see anybody take it? No. So there's a way to ask questions to resolve those complaints. You know, are you saying you think that this aide took it? Well, I'm not sure. Well, did you see her take it? When's the last time you saw that? And I can say, well, she wasn't even in it. You know, so there's ways to do that. But missing things, it's usually little gripes, but we've had complaints usually about missing things. They're the ones that are the worst. We had a very precious client of ours pass away, and the family was never involved. And the aide, this was recent, and the aide was the world to her. They were so close, she took care of everything for her, and she didn't have to do that. And the woman was very intelligent, cognitive, so it wasn't like we could say that that woman was being abused by the aide because she couldn't make her own decisions. She was totally with it. Her health had been failed, but cognitive level was 100%. And the family tried to say, oh, you know, she used too much money on shopping and errands and things of that nature. And we had to put that under investigation for a little while. They never followed up, thank God. But it didn't mean the state wasn't going to show up one day, so we have to have all this documented. But we don't get that many, to tell you the truth, other than like, don't like that aid. So we don't get, or something was broken that we're not responsible for, that wasn't in good shape when we went there. Yes, Mike?
I think a lot of them don't have the big picture. I'm always telling them, this is a huge puzzle. Do you
Yes.
realize what the scheduling coordinator must do? Because a lot of the nitpicky complaint is, well, I really want it Monday, why was my time changed?
Yeah.
Or I always get it 11 to 3, why wasn't I called? Because they came at 10, you know. And I try to say to them, do you realize they're on the phone all day long trying to make this work, that these schedules are made on Wednesday for that week and the following week? They are very self-focused, a lot of them because they are homebound. Because they are no longer working out in our current environment and with the jobs to see how hard everything has become and the price of gas. And we
Yeah.
say, the time, please, 10 minutes before, 10 minutes after. We had a recent new case, she was on the phone and our lovely direct care worker was at the front door. You know, and it was what, 10 minutes? It
Yeah.
was going to not impact anything serious.
And that's
The
why
work
it's
was gonna get
important to
done.
let us know sometimes, because sometimes, I mean, the communication is so important. Because if we don't communicate, like they're okay, some people are, some people aren't, because the daughter has to leave, and they don't wanna leave their mother alone, so they're counting on you being on time. But if you're running late for some reason, if you call us, we can let them know so they can make the plans they need. They look at us like we're disorganized, we don't have it together at all, like, why didn't anybody call us? And I see their point there, because all it takes is a quick little phone call to say,
Sometimes they on the phone.
oh, yeah, well, we know that.
Well, sometimes
But-
they don't check their messages.
And they don't
I
wanna come.
called last
Do
night.
any-
Well, we can say that, we did call you.
And they don't wanna come off the phone when you go in.
And
Yes.
one other thing, Elizabeth, about the times, we do have complaints, Claudia said that's a legitimate thing, but we have some people that abuse that. They come in 20 minutes late, they leave 20 minutes early, and if those people complain, and I get the state in here, they will look at your time punches, your activities, these are exactly what they go for. You can see your name, the time you punched in and out. And when they see, why is that client being shortened 40 minutes of service? They're going 20 minutes late, leaving 15 minutes early, all the time. That's a problem. So that's a legitimate complaint.
No, but sometimes it's not that you going late, sometimes they on the phone.
Oh, of course.
And you're busy
Yeah.
doing something, you
Yeah.
forgot to call in because you're doing stuff.
I have one person on my team that's really chronic
Yeah.
with the situation. And we understand you can have home situations. When people have young children, like Kim does, something can happen, you know, but if it's day after day, and I have one person that
One
I'm
last thing for
difficulty
the
with.
people on Zoom, the Zoom's gonna end very shortly, we're just taking questions or answers. Is there anything quickly that anyone has to ask or add on the Zoom? No. Anyone? Thanks for attending, we appreciate it. Bye.
Thank you.
So that time thing can be tricky, we try to have some flexibility, and people are usually pretty nice about that, but with the COVID thing, you would not believe how ununderstanding people are being right now. I mean, I guess it's just the stress and the constant, you know, irritation of not having something stable in their life, and this just put a whole much more uncertainty in their lives, so they like to know they can rely on their aid. This isn't fair to you per se, but I mean, it's happened. And like Charmaine, like you said, you're so great at that. You can't get in, you call us. So we're fine with that. Just so you do that, we're okay. So we haven't had any really serious complaints except that last one I was telling you about that didn't amount to much. And that would have been difficult. And I would have had to suspended the worker until that panned out. But after the death of that client, she needed a little break anyway, so it all worked out fine. So we try to resolve everything. That's the important thing.
There's more on the news about people being depressed, children and others as well, for many different reasons. And Sheila recently had one of our clients, and she literally broke into tears because direct care worker Audrey Wood's time was changed. It was irrational,
Yeah.
okay, because Audrey does laundry for her,
But it's
okay?
the constant.
But it's, we have to deal with that.
Yeah, the
That
stability.
some of our clients
They feel
have
no stability.
emotional and mental,
They do, and they have no stability in their lives, and that aid visit to them is their one thing that is stable and constant. Whether it's, you know, realistic or not, but just from their perspective. And we're seeing that more, especially about the vaccinated aids too. It's like,
Well, but then there is the fear factor. You just listen, when they listen to the news, day in and day out, there
Right.
is the fear
Yes.
factor.
yes,
And that is horrendous. It just is horrendous.
it is. You have someone sitting at home in bed just watching all this bed,
All day
I thought
long.
it-
all this
all
mayhem
day long.
going on in the country, and they
It's
just think
fear,
this world
fear,
is
fear,
nuts.
more fear, more
Yes.
fear.
I don't watch the news.
Yeah, I watch it because I have to keep up on things, but that whole fear aspect is
Well, we
so
all
disturbing.
have to, we all have to know, or we want
Exactly.
to know, but not all day long.
Thank you.
Right, I
It's
know,
the
they have
same.
nothing, yeah, it's, I used to worry about it with my mother-in-law. You know, she'd sit there and she was afraid to go out of the house, she couldn't really do it very easily, but she didn't want to leave the house because everything she
Yeah.
saw, the violence and everything.
Yeah.
You know, she was afraid, like, I can't go on the streets like feeling as vulnerable as I
And
do
then-
walking like this with all this. I mean, it's just,
It is.
And
It's
then
a
the
lot.
ceiling comes down further and further when you're inside the
Okay.
house and just feeling
It's definitely her,
Okay.
trapped and fearful.
because
and it's not a world they knew, so all they're seeing
she
is
has
on TV, which
tried to
is
get the son of
remarkable.
these. And she
And
is
we're having
thinking
people
about it.
unrealistic
And she's
about
right now
vaccinations
underwritten.
too.
She-
I mean, they have to have the certs, but they have to have a vaccine age. And I was like, well, we will try, but
And
our
they are
vaccine
doing
aids are
it,
booked.
Okay.
And we're trying to get you some services, I can do this, but I can't do that day. And they'll keep persisting, I said, please try to make other arrangements for that day, but, and, you know, we could just mandate, but I don't wanna do that, I respect people's rights. But at the same time, if that were to happen, and Montgomery County has an issue that like Philadelphia has, we'd have to follow the mandate. There's so much competition, people would just walk next door and get another job, I mean, so it would just create a bigger shortage. So right now, we can't have that, you know, we need everyone.
Can I say something about the vaccine statuses, just real quick, because we're coming into a problem. I am somebody that's, you can put whatever you want or don't want in your body. But if you are unvaccinated, I would be very careful with that verbiage to the clients.
Yes, there's no reason to talk about it,
Because with all this, a lot of them are,
fear mongering,
and we're getting emails, such and such said they're unvaccinated, we don't want them.
right,
So I'd be very careful.
right,
Again, I'm all for my body, my choice, I'm a big believer in that, but you have to just be very careful about your verbiage.
yeah, and any personal things
Yeah,
should
yeah.
not be shared. But we had a recent aide who had a little scare and she's fine, nothing came of it.
I did.
She's negative, everything, but she talked about it to all her clients, so her clients are
Yeah.
freaking out.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to say about
And she
that.
lost
Well,
clients because of it, and
because
she's really mad that she's down in the
A
house.
lot
I'm
of
like,
them will
well,
act, that was like, that's their, you don't, probably they can tell you they're not vaccinated and they do because they don't want you to know their business. Cause sometimes they, are you vaccinated? I'm looking like, I'm not coming up in there asking your medical record. But that's how they are.
I know, I've had people call from
And then you
Samuel
have the
Green,
ones
we
that
know Charmaine's vaccinated.
Then you have the ones that
I
are
said, well,
paranoid.
I'm not sharing that with you. You
That's
know,
what they
but,
said.
You know, but the whole thing is that it's just touchy issues, you know what I mean, like anything touchy. People right now are very touchy.
Yeah.
So,
But you know what, like you said, they in house and they locked in
right,
and everything they see on the TV, they take it personally. You know, oh, they said you can get this, oh, they said you can get that. Oh, I was like, come on.
That's the paranoid.
that's such a good point, and I wish everybody could keep that in mind when they're being a victim of some of the clients' irrational behavior. You know, because it is tough, you know, it's hard when you're going from place to place, and you may be tired that day, or you have a lot of things going on in your life, and you know this person's being unreasonable with you, but to remember that what they're seeing is
Now,
fear
sometimes I
and-
said to them, if you're uncomfortable with me and you don't want me, we can call and change, but I'm not guaranteed they have anybody to
That's
fill in
right.
right away.
And
They
that's
was
what I
like,
said.
okay then.
And that's what I said, you know, that's your
Okay,
prerogative,
that's
I may not have something, you know, if that is the case, but we do it in a very nice and so, you know, trivial and social way.
Okay.
I had something happen today, which was my fault. Colleen pressed 911 because she had a client of hers collapse. And 911 came, EMTs took her to Abington Hospital, and of course, it's a Friday, 5 o'clock. Colleen comes in, she fills out the incident report. I wait until Monday to call the lady because she was admitted for observation overnight. She was going to her oncologist Monday, and then a friend was taking her to her primary. She called me this afternoon to give me the update because Colleen will be there again tomorrow and she really needs her help. And she said nobody called her #1 emergency contact. And I felt that was my fault, because Colleen was here in the office after she clocked out of the home, filling out the incident report, and
Did
I
she
should
have the
have
number?
thought of that. it's on the plan of
Right.
care.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
always do that. for
And
you.
I always tell all of you, give the copy of the plan of care to the EMTs because she literally was
She probably was
unconscious for a period of time.
unabsorbed, she probably didn't think to call, but
So-
the things, we're all human.
Yeah.
Claudia got that and she wanted to get the things done properly and probably didn't think to call.
She said it was a problem because she doesn't have a daughter
Yeah.
or son. She has a niece in Percy that
Okay.
is her power of attorney, and the niece kept calling and calling, not knowing where she was. And I gave her the information to call Abington Hospital because that's her hospital of choice. And how you can find out if somebody's in the ER, because we do that here. Bonnie and Sheila, you go show up the door, nobody's there. We don't always know
Yeah.
what's happening. But I did feel bad about that. So I want to remind people that you have the plan of care and the emergency contact. If you're not able to make the call, you are to call the office, which Colleen did.
Yeah,
She called, and she talked to us. We
You
should be
forgot.
calling.
yeah.
We should be calling the emergency contact and letting them know, by the way, she's on the way to Holy Redeemer, Doylestown, Abington.
I think I did
So,
that. I call-
Yeah.
Thank
I-
you.
I
That's
call
important.
911, and I call VNA, and then I call the client.
Thank you.
So if we're like caught in the
Charmaine,
middle of
you're better than
something,
me.
well,
I do.
something crazy's
Well, that
happening,
can
you may not think that
I
out
do.
loud.
No, I think she was
When you call
scared.
the nurse, just
Yeah.
say, I didn't call,
Yeah,
I didn't call the emergency contact, or I
Yeah.
did. Try to remember that, so, because the nurse may overlook it and all the
yeah.
things going on as well. So it's just a kind of communication again, checkpoint with each
I
other.
think she
Did you
got
call the
shot.
emergency contact? Or-
I think she got frightened. She called VNA, but she didn't remember to call her.
Yeah, right, she was caught up in
Yeah.
the moment, I
Yeah.
understand that, that could very much
Yeah,
happen,
it
but we
do.
need to ask one another, like, did you contact them, so we then know that we have to and vice versa. So it's, again, communication's really important, you know, when you see something happen, don't just let it go, communicate about it, because that's what protects us, that's what keeps our quality assurance, that's what keeps our licensing, that we have checked all those points, we did it correctly and documented. Thank you, everyone, I appreciate it so much.
We raffling or what?
Yes.
I need to win some money.
Yes,
We're
yes,
raffling.
yes.
I need to win 25